Hi everyone, welcome to From the Tap, brought to you by your friends from Camstrip. We're going to talk about water news, our views, and sample some brews today. I have my co-host here, Travis Smith, and I'm Joe Ball. Our topic today is customer service at your water utilities.
Let's move on to topic number 3, some of the issues that occur in just the daily work activities in a utility and how that faces and how we can use that technology to communicate better with the consumers and understand what's going on at that service connection. For that one, I think we brought in a beer. It's called Day's Work. Session IPA out of the Wilmington Brewing Company down in Wilmington, North Carolina. So we'll talk a little bit about some of those things that occur maybe not on a regular basis, but are part of a normal operating concern of a utility. What do you see as some of those things that occur on that are not bad actors, normal business, but aren't the regular service, daily service delivery of water?
So some of the daily service delivery of water, if I want to think a little bit about maybe the operations that a water utility does on a daily basis, reading meters, for example, right? Having consumption come through the system. You know, in the earlier days when you'd have someone manually reading a meter or you'd have someone driving by to read a meter, occasionally you would miss a read. You couldn't get into the box to pull that read, or maybe if it was an indoor installation, you couldn't get in to get a read, so you would miss that read, and you'd have to do a couple things, right? One of them, which I know utilities hate to do, estimate a bill. And then the other is potentially send another truck to do a reread. And those are two costly items that a water utility does, the water utility has to do to get their customers billed each month.
Yeah, I think the use of AMI systems are really making that more efficient, curbing some of those data losses and making it more fluid. Another thing I've seen in the past is resolving consumer disputes. You know, there's a question whether it's ill-intended or otherwise, or just an honest mistake of there's no way I could have used that much water. How does a utility use that AMI system now to interface with that consumer?
Yeah, because we're not just wait for a monthly read every month. What we get is interval data delivered to the head-end system multiple times a day. So that means that you get all this detailed information that a customer service representative could actually use when having a discussion with a customer that may have a bill dispute. So they can go into the system and they could see hourly usage over that billing period to see, you know, when that water was used. They can compare it to the previous month or that same month the year before, and really get a nice pattern on where that consumption was, and use that data to even talk through with the customer on why their bill may be so high.
Yeah, they might use that data to help understand a spike in consumption on a specific day. Hey, I saw in the data you had a spike in usage on Saturday the 23rd, and that might spawn the consumer's memory. Oh, we had a birthday party at the house. We had a lot of people. We were running a kiddie pool or some sprinkler systems for the kids. And now they begin to understand that actual data was a real part of their usage pattern. And so we can provide that information where before it was more of a guessing game or a push-pull struggle with that consumer. We can bring new data into the equation to help resolve that dispute, which I think is super valuable. Not only it takes that edge of the utility is not trying to pull one over on the consumer, but they can both come to a reasonable conclusion about that consumption pattern.
Yeah, using real data. So I think that there's, you know, the stories that I've heard from customer service reps is once they provide some data, some credible explanation for why the bill is higher than it was for the previous month, you know, your typical customer will understand that and be able to, plus you could share that data with them. You could get them to use the customer portal or send them a report with that information and really kind of show them the detail on why their bill was as high as it was.
And that alleviates some of the lost cost for the utility that covers that even the people would have to pay in total. Now we can bring that back to the responsible parties. What about another case where maybe you had an unintended, someone left a hose bib on, or you had a broken spigot or an irrigation line broke. Could we see that through the AMI system, and how can we present that back to the consumer?
Yeah, depending on the system, for something like that, you may get what we call a burst alert that comes back through a meter. So that would be noted in the system, time-stamped in the system, and then you would see continuous usage that's happening. So they'd be able to go back and take a look at that data and see when that continuous usage happened. So if they had an accident to where something burst in their house, and maybe that utility has a leak forgiveness program, that utility could actually use that point in time when that burst happened to be able to calculate what that burst cost, and then provide a credit based upon the data that they have. So very useful tool both for the customer, because they can understand what that actual lost water was, and for the utility, so they don't give a credit that was more than justified.
Well, I think it's a great way both to raise the consumer confidence in the utility, because you're providing them information that's protecting them, as well as you're closing the expedience of that notification, because now literally you can detect those things inside of hours or days, whereas before it might be all the way at the end of a bill or after they found it and standing in a puddle of water, versus actually being notified by the utility within a short period of time. So excited to see it. What about the other side, the non-big bursts, the small toilet leak, and what that can happen?
Same scenario, right? Because of the data that's coming through, we call that a continuous leak, right? So just continuous water use. So again, many of the systems out there will flag that continuous usage after a certain period of time, time-stamp that, and then it's very clear to see in a lot of these analytic applications when that continuous leak started and when it ended, if in fact it did end, or that it's just continuing to move with a minimum flow 24 hours a day. So again, very useful, because real data that we're seeing, not just a point in time snapshot that you used to get with a monthly read.
Yeah, not only does it help the consumer out, but it also helps the utility, and it helps all of us in that sustainability equation, because that type of water wasn't actually consumed. It was just processed and pushed through the system and can be conserved in the watershed as a per capita demand lower. So good to see those things, good to see that technology bring that forward, really curb that leakage usage. There is data that shows that the average utility might suffer on the consumer side post-meter at that residential piece. Consumption's in the neighborhood of 10 to 20% leakage over a significant time period. So we can curb that total peak demand out of the watershed utility. What'd you think of the day's work?
I thought it was great, actually, and I think this is all in our day's work, right? To drink this thing. So I'm really happy for this job that we have here.
It is a tough job to drink beer and talk about water. Maybe we convince somebody for a raise. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's justified, because this is difficult.
Absolutely.
You should probably go grab your computer and respond to that email.
Joe, we'll get to work when we're done with drinking beer. That's about all we got.